Being Moort. Parallel to the world of humans, there exists a mysterious land called Engeland. No human has ever set foot on its soil, and no one knows what beings inhabit its mountains, valleys, and perhaps endless expanses. Nevertheless, for centuries, sailors have told of a strange event said to occur far out at sea. On certain days or nights, the gates between the worlds open for a few moments. Then a colorful glow tears across the sea at a particular spot, and far beyond it the coast of Engeland appears. There, gigantic black cliffs rise from the sea. Their jagged peaks are ablaze, yet the fire resembles no earthly conflagration. It burns in every imaginable color and illuminates the coast of Engeland, but no smoke rises from the flames. The very next moment, the gate between the worlds closes again. The foreign coast disappears, and only the vast sea remains. Yet while the way to Engeland remains barred to us humans, some of its inhabitants have long since visited our world. One of these inhabitants of Engeland is a female being named Moort. Her form resembled that of a human, but her blue skin, yellow eyes, and the long claws on her hands and feet revealed her otherworldly origin. Her beauty was so extraordinary that hardly any man could resist the sight of her, yet behind her beautiful body and face lay a cruel nature. Among all the beings of Engeland, Moort was considered one of the most malicious and demonic. One day she walked unconcernedly through the colorful flames upon the cliffs. The fire played around her naked body without burning her skin. At last she reached a rock that projected far out over the sea. There she sat down and gazed toward the distant horizon while the wind swept through her long hair. It had been a long time since she had visited the world of humans. Now the desire for the men who lived there awoke within her once more. The thought filled her with malicious anticipation. She had made her decision. At once, without waiting any longer, she would cross the boundaries between the worlds and seek out a new victim. Moort directed her magical power at the rock on which she had been sitting. At once, the heavy stone broke away from the cliffs, glided down into the water, and moved through the sea as though it were a boat sailing by itself. At a certain point, Moort stretched out one arm, and suddenly the colorful flames of Engeland appeared on both sides of her. The sea before her began to change. A gate between the worlds opened. The endless water stretching to the horizon vanished, and instead Moort saw before her the German Baltic coast of Mecklenburg-Western Pomerania. The rock passed through the gateway and approached the deserted beach. There Moort stepped ashore and went inland in search of human males. Soon it grew dark. At last, far from any road, she discovered a solitary house. Moort transformed her body into cold mist, drifted silently to the entrance, and slipped inside through the keyhole. To her delight, she found that only a young man lived there. He was already lying in bed, fast asleep. He was exactly the kind of victim she had been seeking. In the bedroom, the mist took on her form once more. Silently, Moort approached the sleeping man, climbed into the bed, and slowly lowered herself onto him. The moment Moort settled upon him, the young man awoke. Surprised, he looked into the face of the strange yet beautiful female being lying on top of him. He did not know whether he was still dreaming, or whether all of this was truly happening. Moort's seductive aura filled his mind and left room for no other desire. He wanted to sleep with this mysterious beauty. As though she had heard his longing, she brought her face close to his, kissed him, and whispered softly, with feigned affection,
"Love me."
And so it happened. The lonely man surrendered himself to her, and together they performed the act of love. For Moort, however, it was only foreplay. She loved deceiving her male victims with tenderness and pleasurable intimacy before revealing her true nature. For a long while she enjoyed their physical closeness and the sensation of taking the man inside her. When it was all over, the young man lay beneath her, exhausted and satisfied. He smiled at Moort with affection. At first, she returned his smile gently, but suddenly her face changed. Her lips twisted, her yellow eyes flashed, and her friendly expression became a demonic grin. Now Moort showed her true face and revealed why she had really sought out the young man. With tremendous supernatural strength, she pressed him down onto the bed. Suddenly, he could no longer move any part of his body. Instead, her grip made his entire body cramp painfully. At the same time, she clutched his head, in which a stabbing pain flared as though a knife blade were piercing it. The young man screamed, wept, and desperately begged Moort to stop. But she answered only with cruel laughter, as her appearance grew ever more demonic. Once again, she positioned herself directly on top of the young man, this time raping him. As she did so, she struck him brutally in the face and upper body. For Moort, this torment was the true main event and her greatest pleasure. The suffering of her helpless victim produced a dark energy on which she fed. She continued her cruel abuse for a long time. Eventually, however, she decided that she had tormented the young man enough for one night and released him. Injured and exhausted, he remained behind in the bed.
I will return tomorrow,
Moort said mockingly. The following night, she intended to torture him again and to repeat this until he finally died. Then she dissolved her body into mist once more and slipped outside through the keyhole of the front door. Physically injured and utterly distraught, the young man remained alone in his bedroom. Blood covered his face, numerous bruises marked his body, and every movement caused him pain. Yet the fear and the memory of what Moort had done to him weighed more heavily than his wounds. For hours, he lay weeping in his bed. Again and again, he thought of her mocking announcement that she would return the following night. Only when the first light of morning fell through the window did he fold his trembling hands and begin to pray to God. "O Lord, forgive my weakness. I should not have yielded to that temptress. She was a demonic being. Please, Lord, please help me drive away this she-devil, and please let me finally find a woman who truly loves me. Please, dear God, please help me." The young man continued repeating his prayer for a long time. He asked for forgiveness, protection, and the strength to survive the next night. Gradually his breathing grew calmer, although tears continued to run down his injured face. Then suddenly a thought broke through his despair. Like a ray of light, the saving idea came to him, the means by which he could drive Moort away and put an end to her deeds. The following night, Moort returned to the bedroom as promised. The young man lay motionless in his bed, pretending to be asleep. He kept his eyes closed and waited for the right moment. Silently, Moort materialized in his bedroom once more. Filled with anticipation, she again lowered herself over her seemingly helpless victim and was just about to begin her cruel torture for a second time. At that moment, the young man tore open his eyes, lunged forward, and seized Moort with both hands. This time, he was wearing gloves that he had previously dipped in holy water at the local church. The moment the sacred leather touched Moort's blue skin, she let out a horrifying scream. To her, the pain felt as though her body were burning in the flames of hell. She writhed desperately in his grip, but she could not free herself. At the same time, a miracle occurred. The wounds, bruises, and pain Moort had inflicted on the young man vanished instantly. Her power to paralyze him and slowly torture him to death was broken as well. At last, Moort escaped his grip by dissolving once more into cold mist, and she fled the house. Never again would she haunt this young man. Weakened and humiliated, Moort returned to England. She settled on her rock above the sea and gazed bitterly toward the distant horizon. The colorful flames of the cliffs burned behind her, but even their familiar sight could not soothe her rage and frustration. Suddenly, a fiery portal to hell opened beside her. From the flames stepped Succubus, the devil's female demon of sexual lust and seduction. She was a friend of Moort. Succubus asked why her friend had returned in such a wretched and powerless state. Reluctantly, Moort told her about the young man, the consecrated gloves, and her painful defeat. She had scarcely finished when Succubus burst into mocking laughter.
"You stupid whore, letting a single feeble man drive you away. That would never have happened to a servant of hell."
Wounded by this ridicule, Moort silently turned back toward the horizon. It would be a long time before she dared enter the human world again. Moreover, a very long time would pass before her powers returned. Yet even then, the memory of her defeat would remain. The bitterness of it would never leave her. The young man's life, by contrast, eventually took a turn for the better. Although his physical injuries had disappeared, his emotional wounds remained at first. On some nights, he woke with a start, afraid that he would once again see the yellow eyes of the demonic being in the darkness. One day, however, he met a woman who sincerely loved him, and whom he too could love. At some point during their time together, they both realized that they wanted to spend their lives with one another. At last they confessed their love to each other, and soon afterward they married. From then on, the young man understood that God had answered his prayers completely. His wife's true love gave him safety and peace, but his own courage also helped him regain ever more confidence and joy in life. Over time, his inner wounds gradually healed, and eventually the memory of Moort lost all power over him. He became the happiest person in the region, and his wife shared in that happiness. Together they had many wonderful children who filled their home with laughter and life. Their family never lacked love, warmth, or security. And so they lived a long and fulfilling life together, remaining happily united until the end of their days.